We were taught that science is a tool designed to reveal reality as it truly is. But what if its true objective is not truth, but power? What if the scientific worldview is not neutral at all? What if it is a carefully constructed system of control, a system that separates humans from the spiritual dimension and binds them exclusively to the material world, a system that erases God, meaning, and collective memory, a system that reduces reality to numbers, processes, and mechanical functions? If this is true, a crucial question immediately arises. How were science and technology used as instruments of control? How did they distance us from primordial truth? How did they suppress universal laws of reality? And an even more important question follows. Which three key pseudoscientific theories were used for this purpose? Why did they become untouchable? And why are they almost never questioned today? To understand how the system came into being, we must first examine the pillars of the scientific worldview. It rests on three key assumptions, now widely accepted as self-evident. The first assumption: everything is random. There is no plan, no design, and no intentional purpose. What once carried meaning is now interpreted as a series of random events. God has been removed from the equation entirely. The universe is reduced to cosmic accident, without direction or inherent purpose. The second assumption: everything is material. Only that which can be seen, touched, or measured exists. Anything beyond these limits is dismissed as illusion or superstition. Spirit, consciousness, and meaning are no longer the foundation of reality. They are now considered mere byproducts of chemical processes. The third assumption: reality is emergent. Everything builds from the bottom up. Particles become atoms, atoms become matter, matter becomes life. Consciousness supposedly arises spontaneously at the top of this chain. Humans are not bearers of meaning. They are accidental products of a system unaware of its own purpose. These three ideas appear neutral and rational at first glance. They are presented as liberating and logically coherent. Yet these assumptions form the foundation of a world without higher law or inner truth. Everything is subordinated to matter and to those who control it. Before we continue, we must be precise and clear in defining our terms. These are not fringe ideas or marginal scientific theories. They are the very foundations of the modern scientific worldview. Through this framework, we interpret the origins of the universe, life, humanity, and consciousness. It is taught in schools, lectured at universities, and treated as the basis of modern society. The problem emerges when we carefully examine this framework in detail. Serious systemic flaws and logical fractures become clearly visible and impossible to ignore. These are questions for which no simple answers currently exist, and this is precisely where the real story begins. Today we attempt what science has pursued for centuries: a theory of everything. Science seeks to answer three fundamental questions: where we come from, who we are, and where we are going. The story begins with the Big Bang and the formation of a concentrated mass of energy. An explosion gives rise to space, time, stars, planets, and entire solar systems. This is how the universe, according to science, comes into existence. Later, Earth forms, followed by the emergence of the first life forms. Initially, simple organisms appear, followed by plants and marine life. Later come reptiles, mammals, and eventually human beings. The central mechanism of this narrative is evolution. Evolution is based on random mutations leading to adaptation and survival. According to Darwin, organisms best adapted to their environment are the ones that survive. Humans become the dominant species due to adaptability and cooperation. They develop language, knowledge transmission, and technological accumulation across generations. This is the official story of human origins. But problems begin to appear very quickly. If the universe is expanding, it should expand evenly and linearly. However, the observed universe expands unevenly at different rates. Some galaxies move significantly faster than others, contradicting theoretical predictions. Astronomers introduced the concept of dark energy to explain these inconsistencies. According to this idea, over 80% of the universe is invisible. It cannot be seen, measured, or directly detected. What is dark energy? Simply put, we do not know. We do not understand how it works, but the theory requires it to survive. When a model fails, an invisible component is added to preserve it. We now turn to human evolution. Evolution works well for animals, but becomes complicated when applied to humans. We share nearly 99.9% of our DNA with apes, yet the differences are enormous. We do not know how such a sudden evolutionary leap toward humans occurred. The next issue is time. Humans have existed for roughly 200,000 years. Recorded history covers only about 50,000 of those years. What happened during the remaining span of time? The third issue is diversity. The theory predicts multiple human species, yet only one exists, Homo sapiens, contradicting those expectations. All of this makes evolution problematic when applied specifically to humans. The greatest challenge arises when we examine the human mind and perception of reality. The brain filters experiences, deciding which information is stored and which is discarded. Important experiences are encoded through emotion, forming identity. The model breaks down when we consider infants with no experiences or formed personalities. How do they know what to retain and what information matters? More importantly, personality appears immediately at birth, which genetics alone cannot explain. Where does personality come from if it is not directly genetically determined? The problem deepens further when we consider consciousness and memory storage in the brain. We know centers for speech, recognition, and movement, but not for memory itself. When we lack answers, we say the whole brain participates, which simply means we do not know. Finally, we arrive at the process of thinking and the origin of ideas. In school, we are taught that process creates ideas through experimentation and reasoning. In reality, ideas appear first, and validation follows afterward. Major discoveries often emerge from sudden insights, dreams, or moments of imagination. Einstein conceived relativity while daydreaming, with mathematical proof arriving later. The same applies to DNA. The visual model appeared first. Evidence followed afterward. The question is simple but dangerous. If thought precedes process, where does thought originate? If the modern scientific model is incomplete, the natural question arises: what has it left out? Despite everything, there is abundant evidence that humans are not closed, isolated systems. We do not function independently. We constantly interact with something beyond ourselves, consciously or unconsciously. One of the most striking examples of this is near-death experiences. These are moments when the body is on the brink of shutting down or clinically dead. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people worldwide have reported such experiences. These individuals do not know each other and come from different cultures, religions, and educational backgrounds. Yet their descriptions of the experience are remarkably similar across all contexts. A tunnel almost always appears, accompanied by a bright, attracting light. People describe a sensation of rising above their own bodies. Above all, they report a profound sense of love, peace, forgiveness, and deep compassion. Then comes a life review, where individuals relive their own experiences. They witness the pain they caused others and the good they performed. This is not judgment, but a deep understanding of the consequences of their actions. Finally, a presence is often perceived, interpreted differently by each person. Some call it God, some an angel, and some a higher intelligence. Almost always the same question arises: do you wish to return? And almost always, the answer is yes. People choose to return, not because it is easy, but because they feel compelled to witness. Those who return from these experiences are never the same again. Often they were previously atheists, skeptics, or strictly rational thinkers. Yet the near-death experience leaves a permanent transformation within them. Another significant clue comes from psychedelic experiences throughout history. Almost every culture has used psychoactive substances, not for entertainment, but as tools. Shamans, priests, and mystics use them to access higher, divine states of consciousness. Astonishingly, people from all backgrounds often report seeing the same symbols and structures. Looking at ancient civilizations worldwide, we notice remarkable similarities in iconography. One symbol appears repeatedly: the serpent. The cosmic serpent, the serpent of knowledge, the serpent of life. Almost every early civilization placed the serpent at the center of their symbolic system. It is as if they all observed the same reality and tried to describe it with symbols. Interestingly, the The serpent's shape strongly resembles the structure of DNA. As if humans intuitively recognized a pattern science would only discover thousands of years later. Similar experiences appear during deep meditation, without substances or external stimuli. People report identical states of consciousness, visions, and profound feelings of connection. It is as if they are accessing the same layer of reality, but through a different pathway. Finally, we turn to literature, the great works of humanity. Dante, Milton, and Homer describe the universe in strikingly similar ways. Dante's depictions of God and the heavens resemble modern near-death experience reports. Although we have no evidence Dante personally experienced this, he describes something universal. It is as if all these pathways, near-death experiences, psychedelics, meditation, mythology, literature, point to the same conclusion. They indicate the existence of something beyond the purely material world. I do not claim to prove the existence of a higher power, but there is sufficient indication that the spiritual dimension cannot be easily dismissed. And now, we arrive at a crucial question. If our current model fails to explain consciousness, identity, and universal experiential patterns, what is the alternative? What follows is not an attempt to tell you the ultimate truth. It is an attempt to open space for a different possibility. We now consider a model of reality that does not exclude spirit, a model that does not reduce humans to mere chance, a model that attempts to explain what contemporary science overlooks. We cannot continue this story without mentioning one crucial figure, Immanuel Kant. Kant was the first to seriously challenge the idea that we are passive observers of the world. According to him, we are not spectators of reality. We are active participants shaping what we perceive. There exists reality as it is, what Kant called the noumenon. But we can never access it directly. Everything we see is filtered through time and space. Time and space are not properties of the universe. They are properties of us, tools that translate chaos into meaning. In other words, we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as our minds allow us to see it. But this raises an important question. If reality is subjective, why do we experience it similarly? Why don't we each live in our own separate version of the universe? Here, Hegel enters the scene with the idea of essence, a single source from which everything arises, underlying the phenomena we observe. This source gives form and structure to the apparent world. If we all emerge from the same essence, we share similar filters. That is why our perception of reality aligns. Modern science expresses this idea through quantum mechanics. At the deepest level, everything is vibration, energy in motion. Each vibration carries information, patterns encoded in reality itself. Our brains are not isolated systems. They act as receivers, tuned to the universe's constant signals. We convert this information into experiences into memories. Memories are then fed back into the universe like a digital trace, leaving an imprint. Every culture has transformed this truth into myth, story, and symbol. In Dante, all begins from a single source, the monad, a principle that vibrates, radiates, and brings reality into existence. For this system to function, free will is required. Without it, there is no creation, no imagination, no meaning. But free will carries risk. We can create love, or we can create hatred. Love returns to the source, while hatred accumulates in lower dimensions. Heaven and hell are not places but states of consciousness. Death is not punishment. It is a mechanism of liberation, a reset. We return to the source, reflect on our choices, and receive a new opportunity. In Hinduism, Indra's net of jewels expresses the same truth. Each jewel reflects all others. When one shines, they all shine. In Dante, God is the flame, and we are the mirrors. The flame exists in each of us, no matter how far we believe we have strayed. The message is simple. Our role is not to control the universe. Our role is to expand it through love, compassion, and imagination. And now, knowing this, we can ask the real question. And now we arrive at the final question. If all ancient civilizations knew that reality was more than mere matter, how did we come to deny this? How did humans replace meaning with chance, consciousness with chemistry, and infinity with machines? The answer is simple. Humans have always stood between two worlds, Heaven and hell, spirit and mechanism. Heaven is internal. It represents consciousness, awareness, and the immaterial essence of life. Hell is external. It represents control, dominance, and the mechanization of existence. For most of human history, we chose the first path, the path of spirit and consciousness. But at some point, certain individuals chose the second path, embracing power over enlightenment. Hell offers something heaven does not: absolute power, technological advantage, and organizational control over others. To dominate humans, one must remove one thing: the memory that death is not the ultimate end. If humans understand death as a mere passage, they lose fear and cannot be forced into obedience. Thus arises a world where death is the greatest evil, and life becomes reduced to mere biological randomness. Science becomes a narrative, not about discovering truth, but about removing the divine from human perception. But even that is not sufficient to maintain total control. The next step is promising immortality without a soul, transhumanism, the merging of humans with machines. This is not meant to prolong life, but to trap consciousness permanently within the material world. This is not a war over resources or territories. This is a war over perception and belief itself. In a universe of vibrations, what you believe becomes real. If humans believe God does not exist, then God effectively does not exist for them. If humans believe they are nothing but bodies, they will behave as machines, predictable and controllable. Thus, the world must be inverted. Matter becomes sacred, while spirit and consciousness are declared illusory. Here lies the paradox. Free will prevents either God or Satan from intervening directly in the material world. Everything depends on human choice, awareness, and intentionality. And that is why, in times of greatest darkness, a single light shines strongest. One person choosing love can change the entire network of consciousness around them. One awakened individual can ignite awareness in countless others, spreading transformation like wildfire. This is not a story about the end of the world. It is a story about choice, agency, and the power of consciousness. Will we act as machines or as active participants in the universe? Will we worship matter or remember the flame that burns within ourselves? The war between heaven and hell is not fought somewhere outside. It is fought within each individual, in every choice and decision. And it is there, within us, that everything truly begins.